who's gone to represent us in the United States Capitol. I remember the first time I met Ted. We're going to support you and work for you to win on November 6th. And the only blue wave we're going to see here is a wave bye-bye. But right now, it's not bye-bye. It's hello. Let's give it up for our continued U.S. Senator, Ted Cruz.
God bless Texas. Angela, thank you for that very, very kind and generous introduction. Thank you for your strong conservative leader. Thank you. You hit. I was trying to, and I cannot wait until you are the next state senator from Texas representing North Texas. And I do apologize. We saw the biggest tax cut of a generation. Cutting taxes across the board. Cutting taxes on small businesses. Cutting taxes on farmers. Which means starting next year, 90% of Americans will fill out your taxes on a postcard. Now, personally, I think that should be 100%, and we should have a simple flat tax and abolish the IRS. But 90% is a very good start. Second big priority, reg reform. We've seen all across the administration job-killing regulations from just about every cabinet agency, just about every cabinet secretary, job-killing regulations pulled back. Regulations that were hammering Texas, that were hammering oil and gas, that were hammering farmers and ranchers and small businesses and manufacturers. And the effect of those two together, of tax cuts and reg reform, the Texas economy is booming. Amen. We have right now, nationally, the lowest unemployment in decades. We had maybe a half dozen senators supporting us. And we went from a half dozen senators to, in December, all 52 Republicans standing as one, delivering and repealing the individual mandates. Now we need to finish the job and repeal the rest of that disastrous law and lower premiums for Texans all across the state. Not only that, we've got strong, principled constitutionalists who've been appointed to federal courts up and down the line. You know, last year in the Senate, we confirmed more federal appellate judges than any time in history in the first year of a presidency. So for every one of us who cares about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, who cares about free speech and religious liberty and the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment and all of our fundamental liberties, it is the courts that are at the crossroads between either upholding those rights or seeing those rights torn down. We're about 90 days out from an election right now. And this is no ordinary election. This is volatile. We've got a fight on our hands. The hard left, the extreme left, is energized and they're angry. They're filled with rage and fury at the president. And politically, that's dangerous. They're raising tens of millions of dollars that are flowing in from liberals all over the country into Texas. And they're going to show up. We are going to see record-shattering Democratic turnout in November. And here's the good news. This is Texas. And there are a whole lot more conservatives than liberals in Texas. And so our collective job is simple. This race comes down to one thing: turnout, turnout, turnout. If we show up, if freedom-loving Texans come out and defend our rights, defend our freedom, then Texas is and will remain bright, bright red. At this point, happy to answer any questions you might have.
How about Diamond and Silk?
How about Diamond and Silk? I think they're awesome. And, you know, I think the fact that Facebook is trying to silence Diamond and Silk speaks volumes. It's part of, you know, there is an assault on free speech in the First Amendment in this country that's sad. We see it on university campuses, where college administrators, who I think were, you know, hippies in the 1960s, they've now achieved control of power over the universities. And I'll tell you, when you silence those who disagree with you, that's not a sign of strength. That's a sign of weakness. That's a sign of fear that you know your arguments can't hold up.
Right.
You know, I'm very much one who agrees with John Stuart Mill, who said the best cure for bad speech is more speech. If someone's saying something wrong, counter him with the truth.
That's right.
And if you look online on social media, I'm very, very concerned about the social media companies, the power that is getting drawn into Silicon Valley, the power to censor and censor silently. You know, it's a power. William Randolph Hearst, the famed publisher of Yellow Journalism days, he could never have imagined the power that we have in social media. He could never have imagined the power to just silently, if somebody speaks and you don't like what they say, just have them tweet into oblivion. And no one even knows it. It just goes into the void. And it's invisible and it's untraceable. On the other hand, the ability to curate. If you have somebody you want to influence, just have every single thing that comes into their feed be something you want them to see. That is a power of censorship that is frightening. It is dangerous to our democratic process, and I'm going to continue shining a light and putting scrutiny on it to defend First Amendment principles.
Okay.
How about sending our astronauts to space in American rockets instead of Russian rockets?
So it's a great question to go to the space station. So we are finally returning to that capacity, and we are returning to global leadership in space, which is America, where America belongs, something I've been very, very active in leading.
Okay.
What do you think about the government's trade policies, especially regarding the tariffs against the EU?
Great question. Look, on trade, I believe in free trade. I think America does well when we trade with our trading partners on a fair and level playing field. I think trade is good. I think this is an issue on which... Yes, sir.
When and how is Hillary Clinton going to go to jail?
Sir, I share your frustration. I will say it is maddening watching many of the things that are happening in Washington. But one of the most frustrating is what's happening at the Department of Justice and the FBI. Both the Department and the FBI have a long tradition, decades-long, even centuries-long tradition, of being apolitical, of staying out of politics and simply fairly and impartially enforcing the law. I'm an alumnus of the U.S. Department of Justice. I was an Associate Deputy Attorney General. I don't want a Republican Department of Justice or a Republican FBI. I don't want a Democrat Department of Justice or a Democrat FBI. I want a Department of Justice and FBI that faithfully enforces the law regardless of anyone's party.
What's What's your experience with the great city of McKinney?
McKinney is wonderful. North Texas is wonderful. As you know, my dad lives up here, my aunt lives up here, so I am up in North Texas all the time. And the Pantry is a wonderful community institution. I'm grateful for their hosting us. And law of potential criminal conduct, and there's no indication whatsoever that this Department of Justice or FBI is looking at it whatsoever. That is maddening. I can tell you, at the end of the day, law enforcement remains an executive function. So it's got to be the department and the Bureau that do those investigations. But from the Senate side, I'm going to continue to shine light and expose them to scrutiny and pressure to urge them to follow the law and do the right thing.
Senator, what's your experience with the great city of McKinney?
McKinney is wonderful. North Texas is wonderful. As you know, my dad lives up here, my aunt lives up here, so I am up in North Texas all the time. And the Pantry is a wonderful community institution. I'm grateful for their hosting us. And yes,